Hello, and welcome back to the journey of a Navy medic. I'm Lieutenant Commander Dave Lassam, Royal Australian Navy, retired, and in this episode we're diving into some of the most intense and life-changing moments of my career. Moments that brought me face to face with medical emergencies that tested everything I had learned, both in the Navy and in life. Today's episode, Saving Lives, Tales from a Navy Medic, isn't just about the technical sides of medicine. It's about real-life experiences, the kind of situations where every second counts. We'll explore some of the most critical moments I've faced, from reviving heart attack victims to responding to serious accidents, whether in the field, on board, or during shore leave. These stories highlight the incredible role that medical personnel play, not just in the military, but in any setting. So let's jump right in. Reviving a heart attack victim. I'll start with one of the most intense and life-altering moments of my career. I was at a dog show, just standing there with my dog, waiting to be shown into the ring for my turn to be examined. A normal Saturday morning, I had just arrived, got ready, and I was standing there. Suddenly, I heard a loud bang, or more a thump, and I looked up quickly, and I saw a lady had fallen and was lying prone in the show ring. I immediately handed my dog off to somebody to hold for me, and I raced into the ring. And after a quick examination, I realised that she had had a heart attack, and I needed to start CPR. I worked out later on that it was probably about 10 to 15 seconds before I started doing what I had to do. Back in those days, you did 5 quick breaths, 15 compressions, and away you went. So I definitely started that straight away. I quickly had somebody else there to help me, a nurse who was also on the site. So I maintained the head and the breathing, which is probably one of the more difficult parts, and she did the compressions, but we did alternate around in that to keep things going. I worked away for about 5 minutes, and the ambulance arrived. Now, I didn't remember actually doing some of this stuff because your mind is in absolute fast speed, but making sure you've done everything. And I had organised somebody to call an ambulance, and I'd organised somebody to make sure that there was a line of people to direct the ambulance straight to where we were so they could drive literally right up to the ring and help us straight away. So within 5 minutes of the lady collapsing, we were still doing CPR in the middle of the ring. Some people had surrounded us with towels and so forth to give her a modicum of privacy, because it's not a nice thing to see as well, somebody on the ground requiring this sort of thing. And there are usually kids at dog shows, so you don't want to put them under too much pressure from seeing something that's not all that nice. We continued doing the CPR because at those stages, back in 1999, we didn't have the automatic defibrillators, so it was all done physically by myself and this nurse. Once the ambulance arrived, they got all their equipment ready, so we had to keep going. So you just don't stop, you keep going. And I was doing compressions, and then we were doing breathing. Then the ambos got stuck in, and they did all their bits and pieces, and I kept helping them, holding drips and all the rest of it. The lady started to come back. She got her heartbeat back, and when we put her in the ambulance, she was alive, but very unwell. As soon as we'd finished that, we cleaned up all the area, because as you can imagine, there's lots of bits of medical things that have to be chucked away. So we got rid of all those things carefully and got back on with the dog show. And I kept an eye on this lady through contacts that I had, because we're at the hospital she'd gone to. And she lived for another 2.5 years. I'm extremely proud of that, as it was my first actual use of CPR, which I'd been trained to do and which I had trained other people to do in the Navy, yet it wasn't in the Navy that I required it. However, being prepared and being trained is just the only way you can take action in some of these worst case scenarios that do happen. It was a great feeling to know that I'd been able to help. Responding to a serious accident. Not all emergencies are about heart attacks or sudden medical crises. Some of the most dangerous situations come when you least expect them. One of the most challenging incidents I faced was when we responded to a serious accident during a training exercise. It was chaotic. One of the sailors had been involved in a severe accident, and it was clear from the moment I arrived on the scene that the journey he was going to go through was life-threatening. His leg was severely damaged, almost beyond recognition, and the bleeding was severe. There was no time to hesitate, no time to second guess. We had to act fast. I applied a tourniquet immediately to stop the bleeding. The first priority in those situations is to control hemorrhaging. I then worked with the team to stabilise his injuries and keep him conscious, talking to him throughout, which helped both him and the rest of the team stay focused. And I can't say enough about that. Talking out loud while you are doing things keeps everybody calm. The hardest part of that situation was not knowing what the long-term outcome would be. As a medic, you prepare for everything, but in situations like that, you sometimes wonder if you did enough. Fortunately, he survived, but the mental toll of these kinds of incidents sticks with you. What this taught me is something that has stuck with me to this day. As a medic, you're often the first person to witness someone's lowest moment. How you act, how you remain calm, and how you lead in those moments can mean the difference between life and death. The emotional toll and resilience. While saving lives is an incredibly rewarding aspect of being a Navy medic, there's no denying that these experiences take their toll. The emotional side of medicine, of constantly being on call to save lives, is something many don't fully understand. After an incident like the heart attack or the accident, you're left with a mixture of emotions. Relief for sure, but also a kind of emotional exhaustion. It's hard to describe, but when you're involved in saving someone's life, you often don't have the chance to fully process what happened in the moment. It's only later, when the adrenaline wears off, that you truly reflect on what you've been through. Over the years, I learned the importance of emotional resilience. You can't let every difficult situation weigh you down. You have to find ways to manage your stress and stay mentally healthy, because if you don't, it'll impact your ability to do your job. That was a lesson that came slowly for me, but one I'm grateful I learned. What I've come to understand is that, as a medic, you need to compartmentalise. You deal with the emergency in front of you, and then you step back, process, and move forward. The lives you save might be on your mind for a long time, but you have to remember, you made a difference. The broader role of medical personnel in both military and civilian settings. The critical role of medical personnel goes far beyond military settings. Whether it's in combat zones or civilian life, medics, doctors and nurses all share the same goal: saving lives, often under pressure. In the Navy, we're trained to deal with some of the most extreme environments, but under the fundamentals of medical stabilising a patient, providing first aid, saving lives are the same no matter where you are. Whether you're on a battlefield, on a ship or in a civilian hospital, the urgency and the responsibility remain the same. I've had the opportunity to work alongside civilian medical professionals in different settings, and it's humbling to see how much dedication they have, often under similar or even more difficult circumstances. I've learned that whether you're in the Navy or not, the commitment to saving lives transcends all environments. Conclusion. Today I've shared some of the most intense moments of my career as a Navy medic, moments that shaped not only the course of my career, but my outlook on life itself. Every day brings its own set of challenges, but the chance to save lives, to make a real difference, is something I'll never take for granted. I hope these stories have given you a glimpse into the life of a Navy medic and the critical role medical personnel play in every emergency. It's not just about the training or the equipment, it's about the human side of medicine, the resilience and the determination to act when it matters most. Thank you for joining me on the journey of a Navy medic. Stay tuned for more real-life stories, lessons and reflections from my time in the Navy. Until next time, stay safe and remember, every life matters.